We are honored to have Marine Corporal Michael Logue with us today. Corporal Logue was served with the U.S. Marines of Lima Company and spent 210 of his 240 days of deployment to Iraq in combat. You can read more about his accomplishments on the back of the program. So without further ado, Corporal Logue.
Thank you. If that beautiful band doesn't bring a tear to your eye, I don't know what will. Thank you. I am honored to be your guest speaker for the 2018 Memorial Day. I thank you all for being here and for giving me your attention. It is a great honor to address all of you and to the significance of today. I must also thank my friends, family, for their constant support, and my lovely wife, Kristen, and our newborn son, Austin, in the back. I see many friends and families of those who have served in the crowd right now. And if you're here today because your loved one, family, or friend served, and they gave the ultimate sacrifice, please stand or raise a hand. I'm grateful for their service. They represent the greatest price for freedom, and they make the USA the greatest country. It is an honor to be here with you today to honor and remember those warriors. It is because of them and their families that we are privileged with freedom. I often think of the men and women from our past, our present, and those that will serve in the future. I think of them because they are freedom at work, and they represent America's enduring spirit. We gather today because of all the great generations of men and women, remembering those who have gone before us. Memorial Day had its start after the Civil War, originally called Decoration Day, a day to honor the lives of the Civil War soldiers. On May 1st, 1865, newly freed slaves in Charleston, South Carolina, unofficially held the first Decoration Day, as they held a ceremony to rebury fallen Union soldiers. The flowers were in bloom during May, and the red poppy was prevalent for decorating the graves. In following years, Decoration Day was informally held throughout dozens of cities across the nation. In 1868, about 5,000 people gathered to decorate graves at Arlington National Cemetery, which began an annual tradition of honoring and remembering. It wasn't until after World War I, the war to end all wars, through the fierce trench warfare that came to an armistice, that Decoration Day became widely known as Memorial Day. The day began to grow in scope and encompass all those who have served and sacrificed with their lives for our nation. The day became recognized as a federal holiday in 1971. There's been too many wars and combat operations around the globe since the Civil War, but to list a few and remember: World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Cold War, Beirut, Grenada, Desert Storm, and my generation's war, the ongoing war on terror and extremist ideology. Afghanistan is our nation's longest war in history, and the war in Iraq will continue to be fought because it never really ended. The enemy, they have a choice too. They get a vote by when and where they attack and how successfully they recruit. For me, my view of the Lima Company story starts just outside of Cincinnati in Lebanon. I was class of 2004, and I stepped onto the yellow footprints at Parris Island, South Carolina, to join the United States Marine Corps, just 2 days after my high school graduation. I felt a responsibility to serve this great country because I was able-bodied, and if I did not, then who would? I owed a debt of gratitude to every service member that has walked in combat boots before my time and those that gave their life. I graduated boot camp within 2 days of starting college, and I chose to withdraw from college with 2 weeks remaining in the quarter in order to expedite my combat school training to become combat deployable with my newly assigned infantry unit in Columbus, Ohio. Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines, 4th Division. I checked into combat school on my 19th birthday, November 30th, 2004. And at 6 months from graduating high school, I received my presidential orders that would allow me to deploy with Lima Company. Lima Company was 184 Marines strong, and we would send over 150 enemy insurgents to Abu Ghraib prison, kill over 200 enemy insurgents, and increase voter turnout from 10% to 70% during our 7-month combat operations in Al Anbar province. 6.5 of those 7 months, we were constantly on the move and away from any firm operating base. We lived outside the wire. We showered one time in 45 days. Our once clean and soft uniforms were salty and rigid as if they were made of cardboard. We operated in an area that Saddam Hussein did not try to control because it was so violent. It was commonly called the Wild Wild West. Our typical engagements were with foreign fighters, the Mujahideen, or holy warriors. They stop only when killed, and they would take amphetamines and synthetic adrenaline to delay that time. Our mission had us moving door to door, clearing entire cities of Mujahideen, finding weapon caches, and gathering intelligence. As we traveled between 30 different cities, the vehicles we used were ill-equipped to handle the high operational tempo. But we did the best with what we had, and you go to war with what you have, not with what you want. Unfortunately, improvised explosive devices were becoming more powerful, and they took a toll on our vehicles. By the end of our deployment, 23 Marines were killed, and another 37 received Purple Hearts. Our casualty percentage grew to 30%. As a reserve infantry company, central to Ohio, many of our Marines left local communities, and those communities were impacted by Lima Company's deployment as they followed the news stories of our actions in Iraq, and they wondered about their sons, husbands, and fathers' well-being. The legacy of Lima Company continues today as our story inspires communities across this great nation. I'm humbled to have served in combat with these fallen warriors. Together we experienced the most violent places on earth, accomplished great successes, and forged relationships that are beyond this world. Once arriving home in the early winter of 2005, I experienced significant back pain, and the doctor told me I had broken a few vertebrae at the very beginning of the deployment. And because of our high operational tempo, I did not feel the pain due to the constant flow of adrenaline. Being home did not feel like home. Iraq felt like home. I knew the experience I had on our deployment would never be the same, and I needed to find my next step in life. My mind was always racing, and my body was trying to keep up. For the first time in my life, I experienced a constant pain. There was a physical pain that changed my fitness abilities, and that coupled with the realities of war. While we were deployed, our operational tempo and mission dictated our focus. Mission came first, everything else follows. Now that I was finally home, everything that was pushed down the priority list began to come forward in your thoughts. The scenes from our firefights back and forth across the Euphrates River, while in the moment, can be one of the greatest experiences in your life, working together with your team. Getting the mission accomplished and standing up for the good in the world. Doing your job that you have trained to do, to be the best, to shoot straighter than your enemy when it mattered, for your life and for your brother's lives. However, all the other things you never thought of before, you now will never forget. Like taking sniper fire, hearing it snap past your head, because knowing the snap sound means it was very close to hitting you. When you take grazing machine gun fire and you drop in time, which is followed by rocket-propelled grenades that hit your location and bounce around on the rooftop with you, and you were okay because the explosive did not detonate. Or when mortar rounds drop on your location and you hear the shrapnel tearing the buildings around you. You wonder why. Why do you still stand? Why did those things miss you? Why did you get off a vehicle 30 seconds before it blew up? Those are some of the thoughts that stay with you for life. Those who have served and lived it, that is now their responsibility to understand war and the aftermath. I returned combat to college at Ohio University in the fall of 2006. I did not think I was returning as a non-traditional student, but I was. I'd spent the last of my teenage years at war halfway around the world, and now I was a freshman in college. The first couple years after Iraq were difficult, trying to fit in with classmates and hiding the war experience. Until I realized the life work of those warriors that were killed in combat, to live for them and to honor their sacrifice every day. I must treat every day as a gift, an opportunity to create goodness. It was an honor to have served, and it was my responsibility to continue to serve. My newfound mission to educate the classmates and university leadership about the experience and sacrifices that all military make to sustain freedom humbly brought me peace. I was honoring the Marine Corps tradition of leaving something or an organization better than when you found it, and I was determined to leave Ohio University better for all future military. And I was empowered by the Marines whom I served with that were killed in combat, as if I was directly working for them. I spent long nights doing pro bono business development and leading a culture change. With help of veterans, the administration, and alumni, we ultimately saw many successes, and among those were new policies for veterans and military establishment of mentorship opportunities, development of a full-time Veterans Resource Office during my year in school, all while honoring those who sacrificed their lives. We hosted memorials, created scholarships in their names, and during this time in my life, I personally experienced success when graduating with a master's in business, becoming a pilot, and receiving university recognitions for leadership through all of this. I attribute it to one thing: the warriors above watching over us. That drove me to attain personal successes because I knew that if I could not be successful in my individual life, then I could not be successful with the mission to improve services for all military and veterans at college. And more than anything, I wanted to live my life in a way that would honor those watching from above. I did not want to let my fallen Marines down. I worked for them. The greatest success witnessed was when I found myself returning to campus and seeing new veterans using the policies we changed, the center we formed, and hearing their tales of community service, successful paths after war, and the ways in which they educate the community about warriors who were killed in combat. They continued the mission, empowered by the honor and remembrance of those watching from up above. No one ever joined the military because they wanted to be a veteran someday or give their life, but it is a blank check written towards freedom. Either outcomes, it surprises you, and it comes with responsibility to continue the mission or to watch from up above. The best of us were killed, and the rest of us must honor their sacrifice. I try to honor them today and every day. I currently work for the Air Force, developing the combat rescue helicopter to provide life-saving support to those that need it the most, and I volunteer with the USO Tribute Cincinnati to support hospital programs at Walter Reed in Bethesda, Maryland, where the nation's most wounded receive care, and they have an average stay of 30 months. I'm also involved nationally with the Lima Company Memorial, the Eyes of Freedom. It's a traveling memorial of 24 Marines that I served with, 8 painted canvases that are 8 feet tall traveling the country in honor and remembrance. I share with you my personal interests because I care, and I care for our country and for those who sacrificed their life. And as I spoke earlier about the origin of Memorial Day, it brings me to share my final thought with you today. I know that collectively we can carry on the mission with honor and remembrance of those who sacrificed their lives. We must always hold on to that mission at hand. Through all adversities in your life, you must become adversity advantaged and improve. And we must have this ingrained in our ideology because we can be freedom at work too, improving the country every day. That is important to those that served in the past, the present, and to our future generations. That action of community service is the ultimate thank you to honor and remember those who have sacrificed their lives, and it is also our path to defeat terrorist ideologies. We must carry America's enduring spirit of freedom on our backs, as if the fate of her successes rests solely on you and I. Thank you.